Wow, what a game. I don't even know where to start here. I just tried recording this first time round, it didn't work, and even trying to say this the second time round, I have no idea where to start. We'll start with the first half. I think the first half and the first half of the first half was basically the battle of the jackals. Neither team could quite get to the breakdown fast enough, and turnovers were coming left, right, and centre. Both teams were expertly getting over the ball and causing turnovers, and I think this really inhibited both play for both sides in attack. Ultimately, I think this led to South Africa playing the territory game, which kind of nullified what Manny Libbok's been famous for the last few games. He didn't have the go forward and the attack that he would usually have. Uh, South Africa very much kind of forced into playing the two phase and then kick approach that they're typically known for, so that they kind of reverted back to that. I definitely thought at the first half, a significant point of it, that Ireland had not scored enough points. I started to get worried that it was going to be the same situation as Scotland, where there were some real positive things about Ireland's attack, but they kept getting stopped at the really opportune point. And I just felt like they were kind of just, going up against a brick wall. I think it was 3-0 to South Africa at one point, and I just started thinking Ireland need to start scoring some points. And lo and behold, Ireland did score some points. They kept going for the corner, which I thought was a strange decision, but I think they knew that mentally that might get to South Africa a little bit if they could just get 5 points and maul it over and just front up to them physically. And they did. I remember they went for the corner, and before they threw the line out, I sent a text to my friends and I said, if this is a huge mental battle right here, I think it was just before the end of the first half, and I felt like this was like mentally significant for both teams. I think if South Africa, for the second or third time, managed to defend the line out and kind of get the kick away and release the pressure, I think that would have been a huge mental advantage to South Africa. And I think if Ireland scored the try, I think that would be a huge mental advantage to Ireland. Lo and behold, Ireland, they have the line out, they secure it, they get a nice drive, they don't score off that, manage to get the ball out wide. Mack Hansen scores in the corner, and I really think that was the moment for me that the game changed. From that point on, I felt like South Africa were a little bit rattled. They started to make a few mistakes. I even think coaching-wise, they made a few mistakes. I think they brought on the bomb squad a little bit too early. I don't think they sucked the energy out of Ireland's pack enough for them to justify bringing on the bomb squad when they did. I think they've brought on their first three players like the 47-minute mark, which I think was way too soon. And yeah, I think it got to South Africa a little bit. They started to feel like they were a bit edgy. They didn't look like their cool, calm self. Usually South Africa play in a way where even if they're behind, they just kind of act. They kind of play like it's just a matter of time until they wear down their opposition. And I just didn't get that feeling from them today after that try by Ireland. Ireland's line out in the first half was really inaccurate, and I started to think this was going to be a problem, but just as I thought it was a problem, Ireland tidied it up. They started getting their own lineouts. The scrums for both the first and the second half with 50-50, it was such a good competition to watch. It was really technical. Sometimes South Africa would get the advantage, sometimes Ireland would get the advantage, and it was just sensational to watch. Henshaw came on for Ringrose for a HIA, and I think Henshaw stepped in at 13 and did a magnificent job in replacement of Ringrose until Ringrose came back on. He's more of a classic 12, and I think he did a really good job of stepping in at 13 and kind of filling that gap while Ringrose was off. Delande in the first half was just a one-man wrecking ball. As I already talked about, there's a HIA for Ringrose, and he got that from Delande just running him over. He then did the same thing to Sexton, and Sexton looked like he was injured, and I think all of Ireland held their breath a little bit. Gibson-Park, I think, had a good game, but some part of me just thinks that maybe if Conor Murray started, that maybe he could have done some of those grubber kicks and kicks in behind that were really, really good last week. And maybe that would have just like nullified the blitz defense that South Africa had. Maybe would have got them to have just a step going backwards. But I mean, Ireland won, so what am I complaining about? I don't think you got anything to complain about. I think you won the game at the end of the day, so maybe I'm wrong in that regard. But I made that note kind of through the first half. Ake makes a break. He's fantastic. he managed to get through the middle just because I think it was a bit of chaos while Gibson-Park like fumbles the ball a little bit, it goes backwards and he manages to pop it off. But the South African defence is absolutely sensational. They managed to get back and have a blitz defence off that Aki break and just stifle that attack. It was just sensational. And I felt in the first half that Libbok didn't manage to kind of get his game going a lot. Basically, I noticed this at 38 minutes. South Africa had 44% possession. And I just felt like Libbok, this wasn't the game for Libbok. And I think that was really what I was to do with what I was talking about before in regards to basically turnovers just coming like a dime a dozen in this game. The breakdown was so contested that there was never an opportunity for Libbok to kind of like build phases and get the ball going. I think you saw that more in the second half, and that's where a lot of the line breaks and the wide passing helped, and South Africa looked a bit more cohesive in attack. But this wasn't a game for Libbok. This is a game for playing for territory, attacking when the opportunity's there, and not getting isolated, because the moment that any player is like half an inch from another, they're going to get the ball turned over just because the Jackals are out. So unfortunate for Libbok. And I think you can't talk about this game without talking about the place kicking. He missed a conversion. He missed at least 2 penalties from my memory. After Clerk missed 2 penalties, granted they were very long penalties, but that's at least 10 points that were left off the field for South Africa. There was a lot of conversation this week about 7-1. A lot of dumbasses saying, "Is this fair? Is it not?" It's a bunch of baloney. I mean, at the end of the day, if it's legal, it's legal. I've got absolutely no problem with it. And I think any sane rugby fan's got no problem with a 7-1 bench. But I think it really worked in South Africa's detriment, this 7-1 bench, mainly because, games tightening up and not getting a lot of phases of play. This is perfect for bringing on Handré Pollard as a change of pace to Libbok. I'm a huge fan of Libbok and what he's done for South African team so far, but I don't think this is the game for him. This is not his cup of tea, if you pardon the English phrase inside of an Irish and South African matchup. But yeah, I guess maybe you don't know what Handré Pollard's fitness is. Obviously, he's been injured since playing in the Premiership. So you don't know if he's fit and ready to go for such an intensive physical performance that would be required. But something inside of me just thinks like maybe if he was brought on, maybe he could have bossed the game a little bit better in the kind of the second half and had a bit of a change of pace. As I touched on already, I think the bomb squad was brought on a little bit too early. Maybe that was a bit panicky from the South African coaching staff, maybe thinking that they needed a bit of an advantage. I think they probably could have done with at least like another 10 minutes with the starters that they had, just to fully suck as much energy out they could out of the Irish pack, just to kind of really make sure that the bomb squad had maximum effect. They didn't do that. And I think that was maybe part of the reason why when we got towards the end of the game, the South African forwards looked almost as tired as the Irish forwards did. Maybe if they had just held off and putting on the bomb squad for another 10 minutes, we could be having a different conversation here towards the end of the game and just kind of winning it off of pure attrition right at the end. But if we're talking about attrition and we're talking about physicality, not that Ireland aren't known for their physical style of rugby, but man, did they front up in this game in terms of physicality. One challenge particularly, and it was by far not the only challenge, but one challenge that stuck in my head in particular was James Lowe having a huge tackle on Eben Etzebeth, holding him up and causing a turnover on a scrum on a held up, basically a hold up ball inside of a ruck or a maul or whatever it was called. It was unbelievable, and it really it was the summation of Ireland's effort and physicality that they brought to this game. And I think South Africa definitely kind of left feeling that they were probably beaten up, and that's a pretty rare occurrence for South Africa, I tell you. South Africa get the penalty at the scrum, they get the advantage, and they take it wide and they score it in the corner. I noticed that Williamson, I get the names wrong, I don't care at this point. He almost gets in an altercation, but I saw all of his South Africa teammates basically bully to get him back. I don't mean like they went and started a fight. I mean, they basically grabbed Williamson and they brought him back and said, "Don't get involved, it's not worth it." That's a sign of really good teamwork. If you're comfortable enough to tell your teammates you're wrong, get backs, don't put yourself above the team. I think that just shows a cohesion in the team that, a lot of teams don't have. And I think that it's such a small detail, but it's something that I noticed that I think is really significant in terms of how well organized this team is and how they they don't have a hierarchy and they all stay together and keep each other in line. And I think that was really important. After that point, obviously Libbok misses the two. He misses more place kicks, and Faf misses his place kicks, and that was really the difference. It was such a tight score that if you leave 10 points on the board, you're going to lose the game. It's just the way it is. I did note that, as I said, Libbok started to find rhythm towards the end of the second half. I think that was tired legs, starting to find opportunities, not as many turnovers at the breakdown. It almost makes me think that maybe if Pollard's fully fit, maybe in a game like this where it's physical, you have Pollard on for 60 minutes and then you bring on Libbok as like a bomb squad in the backs. I don't know if that makes sense. More like a firecracker in the backs, someone that can just tear a defense apart with quick pace attack. But yeah, you could see the gaps were starting to form, and I think they just ran out of time in the end. I have to talk about the end of the game as well. Right at the end of the game, Ireland give a penalty away, and Libbok kicks it into the corner. And I have to say, Ireland, sorry, so he kicks into the corner. South Africa line up. They get a successful line out. They get everyone to commit to the line out. They start driving. Ireland have a good counter maul, but it looks like it has a little bit of momentum. The maul goes down fully legally, in my opinion. I've got no problem with it. But then it goes down, and then I think Ben O'Keefe just blows the whistle just a little bit too soon. Now, I know why he's done it, because Ben O'Keefe is behind the scrum half, and the scrum half has got his back to him. But you could see on the TV angle, and what you couldn't see, like Ben O'Keefe couldn't see because he's behind the scrum half, is that the scrum half managed to get the ball out, and as he got the ball out, Ben O'Keefe blew the whistle. Now, I struggle to blame Ben O'Keefe for this because he was just in the wrong place at the wrong time to make the decision. But I would have liked him just to give it an extra second or two to call that. I think maybe he was a little bit too keen to blow the whistle to end the game. It's a shame because I think South Africa must have felt a little bit hard done by there on the last call. And it's a shame as well because I think Ben O'Keefe had an excellent game. I think he was really consistent. No decision was like, what's going on here? You did this over here. You didn't do that over there. His consistency was amazing in terms of how he ruled the game. He was excellent at the breakdown. He saw everything. He didn't have to step in and be like, separate out, boys. This game is getting too intense. He let the players play, which a lot of referees don't. I won't name referees, but there are some referees that I feel like sometimes they have to feel like they need to make themselves the story by getting involved in the game. And Ben O'Keefe wasn't like that. He was excellent. He let them play. It was a really great game, and it's just a shame that right at the end, that something that I don't even think it's fully his fault. It's just what he saw is what ended the game. On the positive side, this is not a knockout game. So if you're a South African fan and you're pissed at it, I understand. I feel your pain. However, it's a little bit of bad luck, and you're not knocked out of the tournament. Just count your blessings that something that like this that was bad luck right at the end of the game isn't the decider for you to stay in or out of the tournament. Ireland, what you got to understand about Ireland is that something that I didn't know until I did my research into this. Ireland have built up this World Cup team to win the World Cup. They've put every single member of their team on basically time duty in terms of what they're playing for their counties and what they're playing for their clubs. They have time limits. Everything is aimed for them to be ready and going for the World Cup. Everything has been pushed in that direction. All the clubs have been talking to the international staff and all that, and just making sure that they have as much resources that they have to try and win this World Cup. They have had a concerted effort here, and you're not knocked out of the World Cup. You thank God for everybody that both these teams are not out of the World Cup, because both of these teams play sensational. I can't wait to see these guys in the knockout stages. So I'm sure I've missed at least 25 different things because this game was so intense, but man, I can't wait to see both of these teams play again, and especially in the knockout stages. The quarterfinals on that side of the World Cup are going to just be absolutely fascinating. And after a kind of admittedly a poor game between New Zealand and France, I think this is the game we were all kind of waiting for. So, hell of a game. That's it for me. I ain't got nothing else.